Good morning. The ruling socialists deepened a rift with their junior coalition partner Unidas Podemos yesterday by seeking to close a loophole in the new sexual violence law that convicted rapists have used to reduce their sentences or win early release. The Only Yes is Yes law, which arose partly as a result of social outrage over the so-called Wolfpack case, centred on consent and was meant to resolve cases where defendants were convicted of the lesser crime of sexual abuse. But because the new law carries a lower minimum sentence, it's allowed some perpetrators convicted before it took effect to successfully seek reduced sentences or early release. In one of the most significant splits of the three-year-old coalition, the Socialists relied on support from opposition parties, who called for the law to be reformed rather than those of their coalition partner. Unidas Podemos controls the Equality Ministry that drafted the new law. It argues that the changes would dilute the definition of consent, and say the law has been misrepresented by judges. More than 150 migrants arrived on the Canary Islands in 24 hours from North Africa, so the Coast Guard said yesterday. Coast Guard units intervened in 3 approaching boats, transporting 150 migrants and directed them to the ports of Fuerteventura and Lanzarote. The migrants include 27 women and 8 children and have all been sent to shelter centres, the Coast Guard said. The Canary Islands received the most migrants of all of Spain, with 55 also arriving on Monday. Spain has approved a statute regulating the functions of its recently launched state space agency amid a push by European countries to keep pace with global rivals, so the Science Minister Diana Morant said yesterday. The Spanish space agency, based in Sevilla, will have a budget of €700 million in its first year and a staff of 75, the minister said. In November, European nations agreed to boost spending on space by 17% to stay on the heels of the United States and China. Whilst the agency was given a 1-year deadline since its creation in September to kick off, it already started operating last month. We are 6 months ahead of schedule, the minister said. And after strikes in Madrid, healthcare professionals in the Valencia region have now also been called on to strike. Lack of agreement between the unions and the Regional Ministry of Health is the reason, and these strikes will be repeated in April and May unless an agreement is reached. The strike started on Monday and is the first in the region for 20 years. In the province of Alicante, around 10,000 healthcare professionals have been called on to support the strike. However, the ministry is optimistic about reaching an agreement with the unions in the coming week. Healthcare professionals want better working conditions with a working week of 35 hours. Due to major budget cuts after the financial crisis in 2008, they claim there's a shortage of personnel, which creates extra work pressure. That's the latest from DRE. I'm Bob James.